Alright, here's a little peek. Alright, here's a little peek where I am in the world right now. That's looking... what direction is that? I'm almost looking dead north right now. South behind me, obviously, creeping along. And I live in that valley around the corner currently. And that's where there's been many sightings of these things all over the backside of Mount Curry up here. And all the way along here. That's where I am. Here, I'll tell you what, if I can do this, if I can find the clip and give you an idea of some of these hikes I do hunting. I hiked way up here one time. It's a bugger to get up there. Actually, I went up there 5 or 6 times. There's only about 3 or 4 deer up in this pocket because the wolves clean them out. And I found a monster set of tracks way up here. So I would hike. Where did I hike from? I parked down here. I would hike up, 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 up. It's very steep, all the way up this timber, stay in the timber, get up from those rock bluffs. Up to there, I circle around that timber up there, and I drop down into this little bowl, and I go and hunt this patch of timber right here, because there used to be some beds on it. And there's a monster set of buck tracks in there. And then I actually made a video from in there, in those old dead trees, see them? And I had my camera set up facing the mountain with those trees behind me. And if I can, I'm going to insert the clip of the video I took that day when I was on that little island of trees and show you what the view is from over there. Some might find it interesting. But here I am up here today, and I'm going to share some emails with all of you in a minute. So my wind block works perfect. You know, there's mountains where I'm going, where we're moving to, but they're not like this. I'm gonna miss being able to go ripping around up here whenever I feel like it. But I'll still be here often, that's for sure. Now, what have we got getting thrown down on the round table of knowledge today? All right, what do we got? First off, just so you guys know, I can't unsubscribe anyone from the channel, all right? So I forgot, I think somebody laid down an explanation for it. I think it's when YouTube's app gets updated. I think that might affect your subscriptions, possibly, I don't know. But I am definitely not unsubscribing anyone. And I very, very rarely delete anyone. It's only when somebody real nasty gets brought to my attention, and then I'll simply go into their YouTube page, find them, and block them forever, and they're gone forever. And that's it, right? And the odd time some asshole will post, and instead of engaging in adult-friendly conversation, they'll just start condescending everyone in the comment thread, slinging shit and getting insults going, and it really drives me nuts. And I do bite my teeth quite often. Those people sometimes will catch me at the wrong time, and I'll give them a little bit of a remark because they deserve it, and then I'll just pin their comment and let the rest of you guys have at her. They want attention, they got it, right? But you know what, you guys, and you people that can't stand me or can't stand listening to me, first off, I don't even know why you come here. That's probably a very big red flag for you emotionally. But if you do come here and something upsets you, engage in good conversation or just leave it. All right? Because unfortunately, going out of your way to display to the world just how angry and vicious you are currently, it just basically is screaming out to the planet that you're losing. That's all you're doing. It's a waste of time, all right? So try to engage everybody in conversation. If you hear something you don't agree with and you feel that you can make a difference, well, engage in a friendly tone and make a difference. Or just shut the F up, right? But anyway, just so you guys know, it takes a lot for me to delete somebody or the comments, which I don't do very rarely, unless you're an absolute nasty person looking to just trash people because you are really messed up. And I don't unsub anyone. I can't. It's not even possible, as far as I know, for anyone on YouTube to unsub anybody. And knowing that, if you do just come here normally, you might want to check it, I guess, and see if you're still subscribed. And then I guess you get the notifications. I don't know how it works. But anyway, let's listen to this. Hi, Steve. I enjoy both your Facts about How to Hunt and your How to Hunt channels. All right, that's great to hear. The story have given me a lot to reflect on, as I also have had quite a few experiences that I have encountered over my lifetime in the woodlands here in my home state of Pennsylvania. I've been fortunate enough to bag a couple of bears here in my home state, and I've seen several very large bears, including one in turkey season that was only 15 yards from us, thankfully heading the opposite direction. Actually, I've heard that there's some absolute monster bears there. I've heard that. I've seen pictures of them, and I think in New Jersey too, isn't it? There's just some Tyrannosaurus-sized black bears over there, 800-pounders or something like that, which is absolutely ridiculous, whereas a 400-pound black bear is considered a monster anywhere. 800 pounds would freak me out. I might have seen one that big here, actually. I got a picture of one. But anyway. Oh, here you go. Sorry about our refrigerator. Someone shot that same bear 2 weeks later, and its estimated live weight was at 859 pounds. It's crazy. That is a huge black bear. It was estimated, not weighed. And that's unfortunate because even though I have professionally guided both grizzly and black bears numerous times, I can't tell you how much they weigh because I've never weighed one, right? So it's tough for me to accept somebody estimate a bear weight unless that person who's estimating it has weighed bears themselves numerous times. It's the only way you're going to be able to estimate it. I'll tell you what, those big chunks of frickin' meat laying on the ground, they're very, very deceiving at what their actual weight is. Same with wild boars too, hogs, same deal. We used to shoot a lot of hogs in the south, and we'd all take guesses at how much they weighed, and everybody was usually off and way over guessing. But anyway, sorry, getting on with it. That is a huge black bear. A couple of weeks ago on your How to Hunt channel, you were talking about bear attacks, mostly being grizzly bear attacks, and you had mentioned that if anybody had a close encounter or was attacked by a bear, to share their story. Well, I've had a few close encounters with black bear, and because I usually show a great deal of respect for these animals, I haven't been attacked by them. However, I did have one lapse of judgment that I want to share so nobody else does something as stupid as I did and end up getting hurt or killed. The incident happened at our home in Butler County, Pennsylvania, about a half-mile south of Moraine State Park. During the winter, we don't have to worry about bears getting to our bird feeders, so around mid-March, we start bringing our bird feeders in at dusk and hang them back up once we wake up and it's daylight. One evening in March 2016, it was already dark outside, and for some reason, I needed to go out to my garage, which is about 30 yards from the house. As I closed the gate of my porch and started to walk towards the garage, I heard what sounded like plastic being crunched on. I looked toward the sound, and there laying on the ground about 10 feet away from me was a black bear munching on one of my bird feeders, which was filled with sunflower seeds. He just looked at me, and if I read his mind correctly, he was saying, "You want a piece of me?" I slowly backed up and opened the gate as I eased back onto my porch. I told my wife that I had a visitor and that I was going to scare him away. I retrieved a Model 1911 pistol and .45 ACP figuring that would make enough noise to scare him off. That is when I stupidly walked back outside of the gate and stood alongside of a tree 6 feet from the bear. I figured that way when I shot in the ground, I knew that it would not ricochet. I thought the bear would run in a direction back across the street towards the park and into the woods from where I thought he had come. Instead of running across the street, he ran toward me and climbed the tree right in front of me. I literally could have reached out and touched him as he quickly climbed the tree. I did not have time to be scared, and if he wanted to attack me, I would have not had time to even fire a shot at him. I looked at my wife, who was standing on the porch, and said, "Well, that was stupid of me. Did you think to take any pictures of the bear?" Neither of us had thought about taking pictures until after that point. I believe this bear was chased away by its mother last fall and was looking for an easy meal, as he's only about 150, 175 pounds at the most. He climbed up about 30 feet into the tree, and he finally came down to where the feeders were after about 10 minutes. I've attached 2 pictures of this bear that were taken from our porch, which has a 4-foot railing and leads to our dog fence, which has an electric fence on top of that. Every year now we start to bring the bird feeders in by the end of February and don't leave them out all night until after it gets cold and the food sources are dried up, which is usually by the end of deer season in December. Steve, keep the stories coming, and my wife and I love your green screen backdrops, LOL. You live in some beautiful country, my friend. Same day we intend to visit BC and Alaska if someday we intend to visit BC and Alaska if our health holds out. I'm a cancer survivor and a tough old bird, but this damn COVID thing is interfering with our travel plans. Take care, Roger Late. All right, thanks for that share, man. Thanks for the photographs, and I'll definitely post that in the How to Hunt channel, and I'm definitely going to be posting some more stories there soon, so keep them coming in. Oh man, I got so many. All right, what do we got? Retired 20-year law enforcement officer. Monster at the Bottomland Creek while fishing. Veritas vincit, truth conquers. Veritas vincit. Veritas vincit, truth conquers. If we knew what it was we were doing, it would not be called research, would it? Albert Einstein. All right, here we go. Getting on with it. Hello, Steve. Again, I say hello. I've been listening to your hunting encounters for a long time. I always thought there has to be a true outdoors woodsman who has first-hand knowledge of the forest people, Sabe, or the Dogman of Illinois. Then you shared the story of your encounter, and that of your grandfather. Wow, so glad to find a real honest man with such information of the remote wild places, and not a charlatan poser who likes to hear themselves speak, i.e. a narcissist with a movie star complex. Sorry for the rant, as you say. My story needs some background information, so please hang in until the end of my scary encounter. I'm 64, retired now, worked the last 20-plus years in law enforcement, prisons here in Oregon. Been through big disturbances, riots in the yard, multiple fistfights between inmates with weapons, typical prison environment. Seen strange events working graveyard. One inmate coming back from the chow hall for breakfast, end of shift. I opened the cell door from a remote control box to let him into the cell number 6, locked him in. Minutes later, 2 inmates stand in front of the same cell number 6 to be locked in. Opened the door, then locked them in. I walked to tier to safety, securely checked no third inmate. What the? Checked cell number 5 and cell number 7. Empty. Gone to breakfast. I pulled the 2 inmates out of cell number 6. Search the cell. No third inmate. Ghost. No shit. Never been scared, 20 years unarmed, surrounded by 800 plus angry humans, but I digress. Spent time as a submarine sailor in the 1980s. The ocean and the machine tried to kill us with onboard fires, flooding in the engine room. Was never scared once. Training and skill kept us alive. This thing in the bottomland scared me. My encounter was in the late 70s, central Illinois. At the very young age, I had no real interest in school. I was able to see through the nonsense. Fast forward to the late 70s. I was working for a Mexican family at their very successful family restaurant.
The restaurant was located in North County, the suburb of St. Louis, Missouri. I became friends with the owner's son. The father was a gruff, straight-shooter type of man. The family bought a farm with a good bit of timber and forest and farm bottomland, with the idea of raising vegetables and beef for the restaurant. The owner's son, I would go out to the property across the Mississippi River to central Illinois to the farm every chance we could. They had a motorhome out there, so that was our camping setup. No tent, a bit more comfortable. Real remote rural property. At some point, the owner got mad at me because he learned I quit high school the last year before graduation. I assured him I would get my GED. So because I spent so much time with the family at the farm, how the owner asked if I would like to stay at the motorhome for a week at a time and keep an eye on the property and equipment, run off any trespassers if I seen any. I did not have a vehicle, so I was out there sort of stranded till they came out on the weekends to bring me back home to Missouri. He said he'd pay me for the summer. Good gig for a teenager in the summer of the late 70s. I had a three-wheeler to run around the big property. The motorhome was on the old road back up on a hill in the thick woods. I had one close neighbors, an elderly grandma who was raising her two same age as me grandchildren. Big farmhouse and close barn and a big 10 or so acre pasture with several horses that sloped down the hill toward the bottomland and the creek. This was up the road, top of the hill from the motorhome. The motorhome was in the thick woods, top of the hill from the bottoms. Had several nights at the motorhome in the thick woods where I'll at ease, made sure door was locked and all the windows were covered. Several times slept in the floor in between the seats away from the windows. Felt something was not right. Keep the .30 carbine loaded next to me all night. One day I went down to the creek to go fishing. I would go down the hill a ways to the bottom land. I would go down the hill a ways to the bottom land, take the .30 caliber M1 and fishing pole. I would spend lazy summer weekdays fishing the creek. This area was always kind of spooky, especially for a teenage city kid. Well, I drove the three-wheeler to the middle of a large pasture alongside the creek. I walked down the steep, muddy bank, set my fishing pole to catch some catfish. I wasn't there 10 minutes, and I heard a blood-curdling scream from a ways down the creek. It sounded real close. It scared me so bad, I couldn't process the event. I was scurrying up the mud bank and heard it again. I was so terrified, I left all my stuff, fishing pole and all. I had the .30 caliber with me, but it didn't make me feel safe at all. Started the three-wheeler and raced the hell out of there, up the hill to the neighbor's house. I remember she was at the fence to horse pasture when I arrived at the old farmhouse. The horses were whinnying and screaming at the far end of the pasture. The horses came running up from the bottom to the hill. We could now see the horses. They ran around all disoriented, screaming. Finally up to the fence where we were, the horses were terrified. The old grandma did not know what to make of it. She said she had never seen anything like this to terrify the horses in all of her days. I asked her to please let me stay at the farmhouse, and I did. I don't remember if I told her what happened at the creek, but I think I did. My job is to stay at the motorhome and keep things safe from anyone that might come on the property. The weekend came and I went back to the city to my mom and dad's, my home. I quit that job and never did return. Monster in the Bottomland Creek? I did not see it, but the horses did. Grandma was an eyewitness to a strange event with the horses. I did not have a vehicle, so I was out there sort of stranded till they came out on the weekends to bring me back home to Missouri. We did not see what terrified me and the horses in that day. Today I still don't want to see the terrifying monster of central Illinois. Never came back to the farm, PMR. Motto of the USSBN 611 John Marshall. Veritas vincit, truth conquers. If we know what it was we were doing, it would not be called research, would it? Okay, I already read that. All right, thanks for that. And not much I can tap into without experiences that, you know what you heard, and maybe somebody, possibly, who's familiar with the same area, possibly they have had the same experience and they can email in and tap in on it, add to it, or they can comment in the comment section below about the same area. You never know. Hello, my name is Ken. I'm 56 years old. Spent my summers camping on Cedar Mountain with my wife, the grandson, and whoever else likes to come with me. My experience happened in the summer 2019 in the Mammoth Creek area of Cedar Mountain. I got up one morning early to build a fire to make coffee like I always do. I'm always the first one up. So I was getting ready to light the fire and I heard knocking sounds coming from a direction where nobody camps. The closest campers were at least a mile away. I stopped what I was doing and I looked up, didn't see anything. I scanned the tree line and there was nothing. I kept hearing it for about 10 minutes. And I said to myself, I know it's you. Come over and get a cup of coffee. If you want, just jokingly. Comma, and the knocking sound stopped abruptly. It's K-A-M-A, comma. Oh, or maybe you meant comma, I don't know. Oh, this must be one of those verbal text things. And the knocking sound stopped abruptly. I sat there and waited for the sound to start up again, but it never did. So I went about the day doing with camp chores, cooking breakfast, chopping wood, and whatever else needed to be done. Later that afternoon, we were sitting around the fire talking, and all of a sudden, about 30 yards away in the tree line, an aspen tree just fell over. We could see in the tree line there was nothing over there to make it fall over. No wind or anyone over there messing around. And we all looked at each other like, what the hell? I know trees fall in the forest all the time, but what did that one tree right there by camp? But why did that one tree right there by campsite fall over? Nothing else happened that summer. I decided to tell my story after hearing the story about the couple that was at Barker Reservoir, which is only about 50 to 60 miles away from where we camp. Love what you're doing. I listen to all your stories all the time, and I started listening to your stories before you even started talking about Sasquatch. Keep up the great work. One day, everyone will find out the truth. Yes, I will. And thank you for saying that in. I appreciate you and your time. Okay, what does this one say? Please don't be another Q bag. You're headed down that path. Come on, man, another conspiracy channel? Are you going to flat earth it next? Keep it real, please. Stop feeding the QAnon bullshit for ratings. Really, dude? Are you that stupid? Are you that stupid and out of touch with your ego that you would actually go out of your way, directly email me, accuse me of bullshit for ratings, and actually take your time to email me to dictate to me what I am going to or not to going to talk about or post on my fucking channel? Really? You are what I call a pussy in this lifetime. Why do I call you a pussy? Because you don't have any control and you don't have common sense. Lose the channel. Oh, but thanks for sending the email in. Pussy. Now, what else do we got? Steve, hello, brother. I have a couple of events to share with you. Neither experiences are mine. That's fine. Back in the early 90s, my wife and her aunt were headed home from a night out at the races. They lived a few miles west of Stockton, M.O. at that time. They were hardly a mile from home when out stepped a giant of a forest man in front of the car. Her aunt had to slam on the brakes to avoid hitting it. My wife described how he cleared the road in 2 strides, and he stepped across the ditch and stepped over a 6-foot-tall fence with ease. Their description of it was vague, but said that he was brown from the knees up to his midsection, because that was how close he was to the car, that was all they could see. Holy shit. You imagine seeing that? He disappeared into the night too quickly for them to get a better description of him, and they were too shocked and terrified to investigate any further. Needlessly to say, they hurried home. The second encounter comes from my daughter from my first marriage. Her mother and I were separated by this time, and she had remarried. This occurred in 2003 and disturbs me at no end. My daughter was around 11 at the time, and she has a brother and sister a few years younger than she. They were living in Ozarks region then. It was late evening before sundown, and they lived in a little rural area surrounded by woodland and fields. They were playing hide and seek with a couple of neighbor kids in a little trailer park they were living in. My daughter was hiding by a rabbit hutch near the woodland when she noticed something in the edge of the timber. As she looked, she saw it was described what looked like a wolf at first glance, then noticed it was standing on 2 legs, and it was crouched and watching her. That's creepier than shit. She said she did not feel scared at all, but actually comfortable, and an inviting vibe from it as she was safe and she wanted to get closer to it and try to pet it. It was black in color and very large red eyes, and she felt like it was beckoning her to come over to it. I don't like this one. But then her mother just happened to step out at that time and called them in to dinner, so she waved at it and ran indoors. She claims that later her brother and sister and she had all seen it. Her brother was scared and felt threatened. Her sister too felt scared and warned away. I feel like this thing was watching these children and made a selection of which of them it wanted, and then tried to coax my daughter to go with it. And that scared the living hell out of me. How close is my daughter becoming another missing person, lost forever? It's a thought that still chills my bones. We have to find a better way to get people to believe that these things are real and the dangers we all face. I believe that some of the forest people are non-threatening, some are violent, and some will cannibalize humans. And then there are these others, the dogmen, the crawlers, and the other cryptids that are responsible for the majority of missing people. And I seriously believe that stories like the Grimm's fairy tales and such were actually true stories passed down to warn people of the dangers in the forest. But as time went on, and cities developed, and society became civilized, people forgot the truth and fact became myth. That's just my thoughts about it. Thank you for this forum and the good that you're doing to helping to bring this all to light. We need this, and I believe that it'll eventually start waking people up and help them to open their eyes to the true world that they live in. Well, I could go on for hours, so I'll close this here. Thanks again, your friend, Dennis. P.S. Would love to do some halibut fishing with you. That would be the ultimate bucket list. Peace, brother. Okay, Dennis, thanks for that email. And I'm actually going to do a little more guiding on the water coming up. You never know, we might be able to pull it off. And I'm not advertising to sell guided fishing trips right now, so don't start hounding me, everybody, all right? But that's about as alarming as it gets, right? You don't have to describe why. And that is what I've been getting at the whole time. Why are we not taught about this shit from the time we're children and up? Why not? It's bullshit. And that experience, what you just shared, should send a shiver up everybody's spine, especially parents. That's why you got to keep talking out loud. Ignore the people that laugh. Ignore the people that are scared. Absolutely ignore the people that demand anything, as in proof or a bone or a picture or whatever. If you can't get off of your ass and look to your fellow neighbor, people rurally, or the game wardens, or whoever, and do your own due diligence and speak to people of respect, there's nothing here for you. Beat it. But thank you again for sharing that email. It's very important we get those emails in. Those are the important, really important ones. They're all important, but that's really, really important, all right? All right. Hello, Steve. My name is Jack. First of all, I want to say thank you for letting me share this experience. You're very welcome. Thanks for sending it in. So me and two of my buddies were up at a cabin on a lake in the Poconos. I've been to the Poconos. We're all around 20 years old. We had the great idea to take kayaks out around 2 a.m. because it was a beautiful night and it was a full moon, so the lake was very pretty. It is stocked lake, so there are fish jumping everywhere, and from time to time they would jump near us and startle us. Around an hour went by, and we heard a very large splash on the bank of the lake that was no damn fish. It sounded like a deer or something of that size that fell into the water. Being curious, we all paddled over in the direction of the noise. When we got about 25 yards from the bank, we saw a large rock, probably 20 pounds, impact the water and make a huge splash in front of us. We stayed out there for about another half hour to listen for any sticks or branches breaking, as the area it came from was very thick with brush, but we heard none. It's honestly terrifying how quiet these things are in the thickest areas of the woods. Wow, so I'm curious, Jack, thanks for that share, but I'm curious if that thing fell straight up and down, if there was an arc to it, or if it came straight at you and plowed into the water, and if you possibly saw the direction of the splash. That'd be a curious question that I would have if we were sitting around the fire and you shared that experience with me. Louisiana sighting. Hi, Steve. Enjoyed your channel for some time now. I want to thank you for giving us a place to unload these stories, as I know I'm not the only person who has held their stories so close for so long how to fear ridicule. You're very welcome, and you are safe here. Let her rip. My story started 15 years ago in a heavily wooded, marshy area between the Mississippi River and Lake DeSalomon. Early spring. My husband and I were in our 17-foot bass tracker fishing in a canal that was about 20 feet wide. We were tied off in a tree on the left side, just chilling, fishing, being quiet, enjoying the silence of the beautiful day in the swamp. All of a sudden, we heard a loud stomping coming from our right through the wooded area off to the right side of the bank. It was so loud, and the gait was steady, just stomping through without care, I'd say. I'm sure whatever it was that way out there, it was alone. When I heard it, I said to my husband, "What's that?" It was so loud, and nothing I heard or expected to hear way out there, and certainly too heavy sounding to be any gait or person, though I can't imagine a person way out there. When I said, "What's that?" the stomping immediately stopped. My voice, I'm sure, traveled across the water, even though I said it quietly. But it was silent out there. Actually, I'll touch on that quickly. Sound rips across the water. It's amazing. Even like when we're offshore 5 miles with the anchor out and a buddy of mine's anchored up like a mile or half mile away, and the engines are cut, I can hear them talking. Water and our voices and sound, our sound just rips right across the top of water. But it was silent out there, and at that point I directed my eyes in the direction of where the stomping had stopped, and I noticed the bushes move. I saw what appeared to be 2 hands, very high, 7 feet up, pull apart the bushes, and a set of piercing eyes just stare at us. Ugh. I tried to show my husband where it was, but he had a hard time distinguishing it in all the thickness, where they were exactly, but he knew it was weird there. My husband was no sissy. He was a tough Vietnam vet, survival expert, not afraid of anything, but this shook him. It felt weird. This thing stood there for what seemed forever, but in reality maybe 10 minutes. Whoa, 10 minutes is like an hour out here with a sighting of anything. 10 minutes is forever. Then let the bushes go and quietly slipped away. Like I said, the eyes were at 7 feet, so maybe it was 8 feet or more in height. So fast forward 8 years later, we're in a group. The subject of Bigfoot came up, not sure why. Anyway, some of the guys were from Mississippi, and some swore they had seen full body accounts while hunting and so forth. I listened intently, as I still was afraid to say anything, as we were in the area where I'd had this experience. Then someone spoke up and said they had seen in the same area as I, and going down the same canal when mysteriously 5 fairly large trees, one by one, fell behind their boat as it went slowly down the canal. That would suck. Does that sound odd to you? Odder yet is the trees were gone when they came back later that day. Anyway, I got brave and shared my story at that point. So my friend is friends with a guy that had a reality show on Animal Planet a few years ago and treks that area a lot. He scoffed, said he hadn't had experiences. I said, that means nothing. I know what happened to me and my husband, and after hearing that strange tree story, there's something going on unexplained. That was definitely nothing I've ever experienced before or since and cannot let go of. It's burned in my memory. Anyway, I believe Sasquatch is everywhere, and just like humans, they are varied in size, color, appearances of shape, and size to suit their environment. One size does not fit all. I'm so tired of these sites that say, oh, that or this can't be one because it doesn't look like someone's drawing. Really? Just like we are all unique. I believe so are they. Some good, some bad, all individuals. Thanks, Steve. If you read this, take care. What an experience. Rhonda, thank you very much for that. I absolutely appreciate it. Sometimes that'll kind of bug me sometimes when I'm on my quad or take my truck in the middle of nowhere and I don't have my chainsaw with me. Because it's typically like right now, if I was to break down right now, it would probably take me, well, actually I could probably get down there in 3 hours anyway. But it sure would suck if you're way the hell out there and all of a sudden something dumped a few trees across the trail behind you and be like, oh shit, really? Really? No, I gotta walk out in the dark with you on my ass or paralleling me the whole way, which could be up to 5 or 6 or more hours? That'd suck. Same with a boat, right? But I guess at least with a boat you could skip the thing over top of the logs. They drop the tree behind you to block you going out. But anyway, that's it for now. I got things to do. I'm definitely going to share more before I get out of here, but I got some stuff I got to do up and over that hill. So be safe, everybody. You got something you want to share that's going to help out the round table of knowledge, email it in to sharemystory@howtohunt.com or tell my story at howtohunt.com, and we'll get it out there. All right? The puzzles are filling up.